Hey everyone, namaste. This is the star weather forecast for November, December of 2024, which I titled Keep Calm and Steady on this holiday season. So, apologies for not doing the November forecast. I was traveling and jet lagged and just couldn't get myself to do it in time, but that's why I have the combined forecast. And I thought I would switch it up this time and to have a summary first before I go into sort of the longer explanations of the aspects that we're going to be focusing on, the astrological events that we're going to be focusing on for November and December. So, for just an overall summary of the last month, I'm going to say the last month because it's already November 25th by the time I'm recording this. So, the combined weather for last month going into this month, I have whittled things down into 5 major points. And the first one is to please notice projections of internal fears. Let me get the cursor there. Notice projections of internal fears, insecurities onto external people, places, circumstances. And this has to do with the Mars-Pluto opposition, which I'm going to talk a lot about in the December forecast because the energy is continuing. And we see that in our environment all around us. And we can even see that if we have the awareness when we interact with the outside world. So be aware of our internal fears and insecurities spilling out into our behaviors and because of how we're seeing the world. And number two, safety is number one during this holiday season, the 2024 going into 2025 holiday season. Starting, I would say, because this is Thanksgiving week, starting from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's. I'm going to say even up to Valentine's Day, even up to Easter. It's the same thing. So, safety is number one. Road, commute safety, safety on the road, um, safety in terms of interpersonal interactions. Make sure to eat and drink responsibly and leave the party while you're still in good spirits. You know, you're not drunk, you're not uh because of number one, remember you're not starting to sort of let loose and starting to project your own emotional gunk onto other people. So definitely leave while things are still amicable. Things are still happy and jolly and lighthearted. And that's also to make sure that we stay safe on the road because um, the energy for conflict is just really strong in the atmosphere, in the skies, in the osmosis, all the way up to April, all the way up to April and May of 2025. So we really want to be careful out there. And we want to make sure that when we do get on the road, like it's easy to get tipsy, to be buzzed during these holiday parties, but make sure that when you get on the road, you're able to focus on the road. That is a prerequisite. Hear me out. That is a prerequisite for this year. Even if you think, oh, I live in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be late at night by the time I leave a party. It's fine if I'm a little buzzed. This year, uh, if you can, try not to take that risk and really take the time to hydrate, to sober up before you leave the party. And then number 3, opportunity to revamp joint finances around mid-December. So around mid-December, we're going to start feeling like we need to have another go at reorganizing our finances for the future to make sure that we are doing everything we can to feel a sense of security, to make sure that we are in a position of power and authority, not just in terms of our emotional, psychological state, but also our financial state. And you're going to see that on sort of the political national stage as well. But since we're focusing on the personally, this is a great time to go over your finances for the long-term future. But remember to consider your financial goals and financial targets alongside your partnerships. You need to reconsider and reorganize your flow of finances, or how you see yourself in terms of your financial future with your partnerships in mind. And number 4, Pluto ingress into Aquarius can be emotionally and physically tolling. So be aware of burnout and be disciplined about rest and recharging. So Pluto has already ingressed into Aquarius for the last time in our lifetimes on the 18th, I believe. And it's going to stay at the 0 to 1 degrees for a while. And during that time, there are a lot of new prerequisites that we have to get used to in terms of welcoming this new age of Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years or so. And so we've been given sort of a new set of criteria, a new set of lenses to get ourselves focused in this new age. And that requires a lot of actual physical effort. And it takes a lot out of us, both emotionally and physically. So be aware when you are starting to burn out. And it's not like this is my own projection, is that whatever that is going to be put upon us by Pluto ingressing into Aquarius will seem natural, will seem even pleasurable, will seem even like a relief. Like, yes, we finally get to move on to the next stage. Either it's for our career or for our family life, for our personal life. It feels like, yes, I feel something new. This is great. But whatever that's coming in is going to take a new set of skills, a new set of behaviors, a new set of actions that's foreign to us, where we have not been practiced because it's new to us. And that's going to take a toll on us physically. So be sure, if you have the leisure, if you have the time to rest and recharge, do so consciously, because it's going to require discipline to make sure that we get the rest and rejuvenation that we need to offset the energy output that's required of us with Pluto ingressing into Aquarius. And then number 5, sort of combining 1 through 4, a quiet and reflective holiday season would be a smart choice this year. Of course, we want to celebrate. If there are things that are really worth celebrating, please do celebrate this holiday season. It's still a great time to be together with family and, be jolly. And what do you do in holiday seasons? Touch base and network if it's has to do with work. Holiday seasons can be great uh, networking opportunities can come up, and those are great to partake. It's just make sure we go into it with our head, with our head clear, being able to have that clarity to leave the party before we overstay our welcome, to leave the party while it is still safe for us to drive on the road, while it is still safe for us. What am I trying to say here? While it is still, um, things are still friendly, I would say, and that you still have your judgment intact. You're still able to discern um, safety versus dangerous situations. So that's the summary for November, December 2024, without going too much into the astrological events. And now let's go over the blog post so that we go deeper into these aspects, as always. So here's a short list of astrological events for the last month and this coming month. So November, I know is already passed, but just humor me, indulge me, because the energy has been very consistent throughout these 2 months. So November 2024, of course, we talked about this not many times, but in October as well, which extends into November 3rd and then January 2nd and then April 26th of next year, Mars opposite Pluto. And then November 18th, you have Jupiter opposite Mercury. November 19th, Pluto ingress into Aquarius. And then 25th, Mercury retrograde until December 15th. So, wow, I'm actually recording on Mercury retrograde. This is like me handing in homework that's past due, like redoing the homework that's past due. This is perfect. So, for December, we have on the 6th, Mars retrograde until the 23rd. And because we're doing Mars opposite, where Mars is opposite Pluto 3 times this year and next year for this period, precisely because Mars is going retrograde. So it's going to hit Pluto forward, back, and forward, total of 3 times. And then on the 7th, Venus conjunct Pluto. On the 12th, Venus opposite Mars. 24th, Jupiter square Saturn. 26th, Mercury square Saturn. And 26th, Mercury opposite Jupiter. So the underlying events are the ones that we're going to focus on. So again, indulge me, if you please, while I go back to November a little bit to sort of tie the storyline from October through November through December. I feel like I still owe this sort of a bridge, and I don't want to just leave things off October and skip November and go straight to December. So if you just want to, listen to December, just skip it. Just skip over to December. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I just feel like the Pluto-Mars opposition is such a biggie. It is such a biggie this year that it bears repeating. It bears a more detailed analysis. So here we go. For the rest of November, the energy of November 3rd, Mars-Pluto opposition simply continues, as I touched on in the October forecast. So all of October actually culminated to the Mars-Pluto opposition on November 3rd, when we must integrate power within the divergent intentions and goals of practicality and emotionality. And because Mars retrograde, as I just talked about, during the holiday season, Mars-Pluto opposition will run strong from mid-October all the way through to next year and won't completely go away until May. And we're going to see external sparks fly on all levels. So be extremely self-compassionate and practice returning to the inner refuge, wherever that may be for you. And remember to be patient because we're all experiencing this energy. So here is the Pluto opposite Mars chart, or I call it Mars-Pluto opposition, on November 3rd, which I know it's already passed, but this is just such an important chart to really get, because we are integrating, as I said, we're trying to integrate what's practical with what's emotional and still be able to claim our power for the sake of our internal security. So we're straddling the need to express our emotions with the need to accommodate what's practical in this world, what is common sense in this world, and also needing to stand firm, to find a way to stand firm within our power and to make sure that we get a claim in this world, that we are not put down, that we still rise, to show our power on the public stage. So it's been a lot, and you see that, we see that on sort of the national stage with the presidential election in November. But if we watch our own lives closely, like watching a movie, we would see the storyline, we would see the script also playing in our lives in some form or another, where we are straddling many pieces and trying to integrate these pieces. I mean, that's not unusual. That really is the point of astrology, is to be able to straddle components of our lives that seem to oppose each other, that seem to contradict each other, and that even seem to grate and to conflict with each other. I mean, that is life. But especially during Pluto opposite Mars, or Mars opposite Pluto, it feels especially, poignancy is not the word. It feels especially charged. There is more powder in the keg and more triggers for that keg to explode. That's why I say we're going to see external sparks fly. So awareness is absolutely necessary during this Mars opposite Pluto transit. We're going to keep seeing this again. As I said, Mars is going to go 1, 2, 3 over Pluto. And especially this last one, which Pluto and Mars are still, or Pluto is still in Capricorn, the last degrees of Capricorn, it's going to be especially explosive. Or it had been. It's no longer a projection at this point. It's not a forecast. We're looking back. So if we think back around this time, the internal and external conflict would have been a lot more, it would be a lot more pronounced compared to the same Mars and Pluto opposition in Aquarius and Leo that we're going to experience in January and in April. That's going to take on a little different, slightly different flavor, but because the opposition stays in the 4th, 10th house, which I'm going to talk about at least in the Pacific time zone. I would say the overall flavor profile is going to remain the same. We're not going to switch from savory into sweet, but the notes are going to be a little different. Again, the flavor profiles will be the same, but the notes will be different. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, as I talked about in the summary, this would suggest that we would project our own inner state, especially fear, insecurity, anger, onto people and the environment around us to a point of outward aggression because the powder is there in the cake. And it is as if the astrological frequencies are broadcasting tense atmospheric background music. Like it's just the sky's just playing Jaws or some background music from a horror movie for us, which makes us project our inner fears onto our external focus. And this aspect is particularly effective in compelling us to make mountains out of molehills and monsters out of shadows and friends into enemies. Again, it gives us a lens of unfriendliness. It gives us a lens of antagonism. It gives us a lens of aggression and retaliation. So we just want to keep that in mind. If what we're seeing is a reflection of our internal state, or what we're seeing is other people's projection onto us, because it works both ways. And in terms of the evolutionary intentions, it stirs up our deep emotional gunk and magnifies for us what we need to heal and transmute from the inside out. So, as in fears and unprocessed emotions, so that we can be aware of them and loosen their grip on our psyche and our everyday life. In other words, from now until May 2024, be aware of projections that put us on high alert and on the accusatory defensive stance. The point is to recognize, not suppress these emotional impulses to blame and attack. Evoke self-compassion, journal, reflect, fully recognize the uglies that come up, and hug each of them, say thank you before releasing them back to ether. And this awareness practice allows us to remain grounded amid emotional disturbance and physical, psychological exhaustions. I talked about in the summary, there's a lot of physical and psychological exhaustion in dealing with this. Plus, we're going into, which, I'll talk about later. We have Pluto ingressing into Aquarius. All of it, it's just a lot of emotional, psychological exhaustion, which of course leads to physical exhaustion. So this is not going away until May 2024. It's just the severity may be a little different. We may see that during these 3 dates, November 3rd, January 2nd, and April 26th, 10 days prior to 10 days after, we would feel our emotional states would be a little more heightened. Our sense of either internal aggression or projected aggression will be heightened during these times. So really be aware when you're just psychologically burnt out, and schedule in alone time, schedule in replenishment, schedule in nourishment, however, whatever you need to do to recharge, and execute it like it's a practice. Don't wait until you feel it. Execute it and make recharging into a line on your to-do list. And then looking past November 3rd, Mars-Pluto not conjunction, I meant to say opposition. Sorry about that. Yeah, I meant to say opposition here. Our sense of defensiveness for our values, beliefs, foundational safety, security continues to be a point of contention through November 18th, which already passed, which I've already felt. Don't know about you. And for Jupiter opposing Mercury, let's see, so Jupiter opposing Mercury, right there again, it's the 4/10 axis. We see Sun-Uranus opposition and Mars-Pluto opposition momentarily receding, but still very much active players through next year. Also with Moon in Cancer in the 10th in opposition by house to Venus and Mercury. The entirety of the chart spells neuroses, and its energy strong, with Jupiter magnifying the external and internal struggle between logistical facts and the need, which is really the uncontrollable impulse for emotional release and outlet. So a lot of steam, a lot of confusion, and I'm not necessarily talking about the post-election chaos. This can easily extend to our own personal lives. So it's like there's a lot of emotional smoke screen, steam and smoke screen, because again, Jupiter here in Mercury and not Mercury, in Gemini, together with the Moon and Cancer in the same house, which, you know, Moon and Cancer in 10th is not comfortable. It is hypervigilant. It is can be passive aggressive, can be very defensive, can feel like the security is always on the line and there's always a monster chasing behind us, and we always have to look out for our backs. This just means a lot of neuroses, a lot of internal jolts that we've had to deal with. So it's almost like we're very jumpy during this time. And I certainly was a bit more jumpy than usual around that time. And not for political reasons at all, just having it's almost like during this time period, my circuits just get shorted very, very easily. And I see that around me as well. So what's the saving grace here? The trines in this chart are indicating positive and effective flows of information. If we use it for good, because, you know, Jupiter and Mercury are in receptivity, as in Jupiter is in the sign of Mercury, and then Mercury is in the sign of Jupiter. They are talking. So if we use this flow of information for good and with a clear intention of non-harming and harmony, then it's very possible that we could get our messages across without shorting our own circuits. And that's really important, to be able to express our opinions in a way where the opposite party can be open and receptive to what we're trying to express. So this does not mean being a pacifist, becoming a doormat, suppressing one's views and opinions. but being able to fight the good fight with reconciliation as the intention instead of retaliation. Again, with the Mars and Pluto opposition, notice when we go into difficult conversations, when we go into, holidays are coming up with political situation as it is, at least in the US right now. It is way too easy to go into a holiday situation, family gathering situation, going into politics and just reacting to this background music of Jaws, the background music of some sort of horror movie where we start to want to feel defensive. We start to see enemies around us. We start to make mountains out of molehills. We start to make monsters out of shadows. And we start to speak our mind. We start to speak our emotions out of defensive retaliation. That is very, very likely. And I'll repeat that over and over again in this forecast. That is very likely. Not only for this time period, but all the way through to December, through January, through February, through March, through April. So, at least with this particular chart, I know this is already in the past, but hopefully when you think back, you were able to find an easy flow of just being able to say what you're thinking, be feeling like what you're saying, the other people is receptive to what you're saying. As long as we adjust ourselves, we make that intention. We're not slapping our own wrists when we, forget to make that intention, but when we have the conscious awareness, make that intention to always communicate from mutuality. Always communicate from the desire and willingness to have a positive outcome, to have a harmonious outcome, and then go from there, and then just see where the chips fall. So hopefully that was what happened. But again, if you miss that mark in November, the same thing goes for December and January, and so on and so forth. A reminder here, both personal battles or international wars can start and stop with good and negative aspects in the sky. So this is really important for all of us astrologers and everyone who's interested in astrology. Just astrological events have no indication on judgment, only how we use the energies and frequencies to respond. And no frequency is inherently right or wrong. It's possible to attune ourselves to frequencies that align with our intentions under any astrological event. And it takes awareness and practice to actually make use of astrology and to stop doing fatalistic astrology, to stop doing predictions, and to be able to use astrology co-creatively, to use astrology from a position of empowerment. Again, the goal of astrology is not accuracy. The goal of astrology is to see our limiting beliefs, is to see what we need to heal, is to see our behaviors our patterns, our karmas, our negative cycles, so that we can operate on another frequency, so that we don't repeat the patterns, and that we can transcend beyond the patterns and explore a new set of patterns and have new sets of experiences in our lives. That's the point. My goal as an astrologer is never to predict anything right. That does not benefit anyone when astrologers predict things correctly. Wars can happen under a beautiful, beautiful conjunction or trine, and peace can happen in a beautiful conjunction and trine. And the same thing with the scary opposition or square, wars can happen. And we astrologers love to predict wars and say, hey, I was right. And peace, lasting peace and cooperation, beautiful cooperation, co-creative cooperation can also come with square aspects, opposition aspects in the sky. I digress again. Okay, so back to our forecast. Because Mars-Pluto opposition does not completely recede until after May, be additionally present on the road. It's talked about in the summary, either as the driver or the pedestrian. Notice when mental chatters or imaginary mental arguments take you away from safety protocols and common sense. And know that the extra time and effort you spend on being present as you drive and walk would be time well spent during this period. With peaks around the exact opposition as written here, and with a range of 10 days before and after. And then on November 19th, Pluto enters Aquarius for the last time in our lifetime. So Pluto right here in 0 degrees, 0 minutes, going into Aquarius and no more retrograding into Capricorn. We see the ingress chart set at the Aquarius ascendant, looking to Uranus and Taurus the third, still in opposition with Sun the ninth. Yeah, I'll let you follow it. And our mascot of the year, Venus, is at Capricorn 11th, looking to Saturn, Neptune, North Node first, then to Mars and Leo 6th, Sun in Scorpio 9th, then back to Pluto and Aquarius 12th. So the pieces just keep moving, and there is no break. There is no one overarching theme that umbrellas all of it. So just as we wrap up one set of karmic balance, a new set is in queue to be revealed. None of the planets are comfortably situated either in their own sign or house, which means we would feel like we're thrown a new batch of problem sets that require us to resolve them with new skill sets that are foreign to us while using our non-dominant hand. So with Aquarius, not Aquarius, Pluto going to Aquarius. So for the last 2 years or so, as Pluto was going in and out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, we were given the hint. We were given the list of requirements, what we need to clear out, and the new tools that we're going to need when Pluto goes into Aquarius in this sort of the upcoming age, the upcoming era. We've been given the materials list a set of requirements that we need to fill in this new period. Let's just say this new decade. And so far we've been clearing out the gunk, and now we have there's a new set of challenges. So let's just say celestial challenges, a new set of karma that are starting to come through that will require us to use these new tools that's been listed on the list of requirements. And we wouldn't have been practiced by this time. These tools are still going to feel foreign. We're going to feel like we're needing to use our non-dominant hand to resolve these issues. So that's why I say it's going to take a toll on us. So the prerequisites to entering the age of Pluto and Aquarius would seem to be twisted. Chiron the second, looking to Mars in sixth, further point to the need to challenge our physical limits to fulfill those entry requirements. As Venus is in Capricorn, the fix to this would be to become disciplined in work and disciplined in rest and play. In one way or another, this is the initial phase of the rocket launch where we are burning an astronomical amount of fuel just to be able to take off and meet the requirements of the new age. As a new node, not new node, North Node is coming to meet with Neptune February 6th of next year, then meet with Saturn April next year. The effort that we put in now would be for the future realization of transgenerational and evolutionary goals. Be aware of your physical condition through the end of the year and be disciplined in relaxation to prevent burnout. It needs to be disciplined and scheduled because Saturn and Neptune are involved. If we just allow our feelings to guide us during this time, we would either be so indulgent that we go into addiction, that we go into delusions, or we would go into overdrive and go into exhaustion if we let how we feel determine our behavior, determine our action. So it's really important while we sort of await Saturn and Neptune to conjunct, I think in 2026. We are really going to actually, let me do that right now. I want to see when they conjunct. Give me a second here. So I want to check in what sign would Saturn and Neptune conjunct in 2026. So yes, by the time Saturn and Neptune conjunct at 0 degrees in Aries, we won't have to be as much disciplined. We won't have to be we won't have to be vigilant and not going to the extremes of being super indulgent or super focused. By that time, the energies will be different. So they will conjunct Neptune, Saturn and Neptune will conjunct February 20th, 2026. Yeah. Okay, so yes. Okay. As Venus is in Capricorn, oh wait, we went over that already, didn't we? Um, yeah, so be sure to be disciplined in both work and play to reach work-life balance. There is no work-life balance if we let our emotions take the reins, if we let how we feel take the reins. Um, we might be able to do that again when Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries in 2026, where we become a lot more logical. When Neptune is in Aries, we would be channeling a lot more yang energy. Um, and we may have to rein in certain impulses at that time. But the picture is going to be more focused. Right now, with Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, we are in the fog. The road ahead of us is just foggy. So it takes a lot of emotional and physical toll for us to just take that next step with fear, because, the body naturally fears when we, can only see 2 or 3 steps in front of us. That is only natural. So it's going to take a lot of physical energy just to keep going forward step by step. So until then, we really have to schedule in our rest and play. Then Mercury will go into retrograde November 25th through December 15th. As I said, Mercury goes into retrograde today. Then Mars go into retrograde December 6th through 23rd. Then Venus conjuncts Pluto on December 7th and will move into opposition with Mars on December 12th. I mean, just off the cuff, Mars going to retrograde on the on an international stage. There could be a roller coaster ride between peace talks and then engaging in conflict, and then peace talks and then engaging in conflict. And so mirror that onto our own lives. We're going to have that we're going to have to navigate those extremes of, wanting to reconcile with somebody, but then we don't manage the energy correctly. We don't go into the situation with the intention of reconciliation, then we get back into conflict. So beware of that dance, back and forth dance between peace talks and conflict again, and peace talks and conflict again. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we do need to fight the good fight to make sure that we claim our internal and external security and authority. Power is claimed, independence is claimed, freedom is claimed. It's not given. And that I totally understand. It's just, do we go into it feeling like only I matter, or do we go into it with the intention of forming some sort of mutuality there? That is the difference. Okay, then Venus conjunct Pluto on the 7th will move into opposition with Mars. Venus moving to opposition with Mars on the 12th. So we're going to focus on the Venus-Mars opposition. So we see the chart ruler Venus in the 4th house, opposing Mars in 10th, forming the main axis for the kite configuration, this whole thing. which also includes a fire trine between Mercury, North Node, and Mars, and a minor trine between Mercury, Venus, and North Node. The chart points to action and revisiting, reviewing, redoing past mistakes to ensure past financial losses do not repeat, because second house is activated. And that silent investors or power holders will be able to secure continuing gains in the future. With Pluto and Venus, it's about power and money right there. Mars and Venus also, Mars and Venus in opposition. I know it's the graphics is kind of hard to see, but Venus is not this one. Venus is this one right there. And Pluto is this one. So this one out here is actually Chiron. So Mars and Venus, also about power and money, and given their 410 axis, this is the underground boss, or those who hold the purse strings, reclaiming influence over operations, the 2, 6, 10th houses. And you'll see that on the national stage, politically. I don't think I need to expand on that. And taking action, fire signs to secure their territory. So thematically, this is about procuring finance and security. On a personal note, this could be a great time to review joint finances, tweak financial goals and targets, and even redefine what you would need to feel secure in this upcoming, I'm going to say decade. As fourth house is activated and center focused here, you may want to think about downsizing, upsizing, or making certain alterations to ensure joint financial security for yourself and for your family, because family is a part of our daily partnerships. And I say joint because Uranus retrograde and Jupiter retrograde sits in the 8th, here and here. They're in the 8th house. Bringing joint finances into the conversation. This is also a good time to set financial goals for the coming years. One caution, don't try to be the hero now, only to sacrifice your own future security. As in, we may rely so much on our personal visions that we forget that we cannot possibly exist in vacuum. So even if we are demigods, we need supporters and the time-space alignment to help us succeed in our goals. And brute force, where even brilliant ideas won't get us through. We'll need to take the time and effort to consider our allies, partners' perspective and needs, and integrate partnership into our financial plans. Moon in Taurus 7th is highly supportive of mutuality if we have the awareness to integrate our personal will into the framework of co-creation. Moon Taurus 7th is right there, and it's speaking to Venus in Aquarius, which is, this is very we, us minded. Because of the retrograde planets, the subject matter will likely be around revamping old financial goals and plans instead of creating new ones. And for those of you potentially re-engaging in an old job under the sky, it's very possible that you re-engage in old jobs. You switch jobs into maybe not, even if not into your old job, but maybe a job where you are familiar with, or following an old boss to a new job, or being reorganized to start a new position. Congratulations. As I said in the Pluto ingress into Aquarius chart, this is not an easy transition, would require much physical and mental effort. Just during this time, just notice how for some reason you're doing the same thing as before, like you're talking on the phone with your customer, but for some reason, just 10 minutes on the phone with your customer during this time is taking like 2 or 3 times or 5 times the physical and emotional energy than before. That is the feeling of it, because you are using a new set of skills. And we are also needing to use energy to support the intention, to focus on the intention of mutuality. We're needing to funnel energy very consciously into the cooperative mindset much more intentionally during this period compared to before. So we have to train ourselves to notice when the body is tired, emotions are overwhelming, or when the mind has overheated and needs winding down. And not everyone's suitable for the static nature of sitting meditation. So consider other routes such as yoga, qigong, nature walks, or modalities like EFT tapping that brings our attention back to the body. You know, even if it's just a phone call, like we're doing something on the computer, these days I would just, if my fingers get a break from the keyboard, I would just start tapping around my chest to just bring my attention back to the body, to be aware of the body, to know that, okay, am I tired right now? What am I feeling? And I'm starting an emotions journal just to get the emotions out, just to be extra aware of the emotions and to make sure that I'm not suppressing anything. What needs to surface will surface at this time. And really the goal, the exercise is to recognize them. As I said, is to see them, to say thank you, to give those emotions a hug before releasing them to wherever they need to go to be transformed. And that ensures us that we don't become a baby with a temper tantrum, a baby who has, gone way past their bedtime and going into crankiness. The name of the game is awareness. So on Christmas Eve, December 24th, Saturn squares Jupiter as Mercury also prepares to square Saturn and oppose Jupiter on December 26th. So December 24th, this is around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, PST, Pacific time. We're going to see Saturn squaring Jupiter. So with Uranus sitting in the chart ascendant right there in the sign of Taurus, and Venus in Aquarius being in mutual reception with Uranus right there, we may have a level of false comfort and security in expressing our views, especially the political ones. There is power to the people, or the feeling of sort of invincibility around expressing exactly what we think with Pluto, Aquarius, and 10th, and an all opinions matter attitude in the air that may turn Christmas Eve gatherings into a mix of hot debates and awkward silences. So chances are we may say things that have the potential to blow up at the dinner table. Remember, Mars-Pluto opposition is still there, is still active. Here's Mars, here's Pluto, and they are no longer in the Capricorn and Cancer opposition. They moved into Aquarius and Leo. And this has to do with pride. This has to do with engaging in battle in terms of expressing our own personal thoughts. We want to show off how smart we are. We want to show off that we're projecting this idea that my view of the world is for the best of everybody, is for the best of the world, and we're going to project that. So instead of previously, we're defending our own emotional security. It's about the power struggle. Now it's about um, a a battle of beliefs, a battle of our utopian ideals, a battle of whose political party is better, the battle of whose ideas, whose plan or road to world peace is the best, is the right one. So just remember that opposition stays with us way past inauguration of next year and continues to affect us in our everyday lives. So Moon in Libra guarantees a penchant for lively back and forth. We want to engage, we want to talk, we want to be lively with one another. We just need to be aware of when we are engaged in friendly jousting, we're headed into explosive territory. So when in doubt, lean into Venus and Aquarius and stick with the intellectual exchanges and geek out and deploy humor and even guile because Jupiter is in Gemini. This is the Loki. Where's Jupiter? Where's my Jupiter? That's very representative of Loki's character, the trickster. Um, so use your humor, use your guile when you see temperatures rising. And what I mean by geeking out is that focus on, after you've expressed your opinion and it's your turn to listen to the other, listen to the other party in neutrality, almost like a reporter. So don't put too much emotions into it. Have those conversations on an intellectual level. And on an emotional level, keep it humorous and keep it light. That's what I see from this chart. That's a suggestion coming out of the chart. And on a more practical note, as Jupiter first squares Saturn Pisces 11th and Neptune Pisces in 11th, take extra note not to overindulge in drinks. Jupiter, once we start to engage, this is the Jupiter-Saturn square chart, and Saturn and Neptune in the 11th house. This could suggest overindulgence. So have just enough to enjoy spirits and treats and whatever holiday spread that is laid before you, and feel free to treat yourself. This is just not the year to go overboard for many reasons I've already mentioned, including there's just going to be more volatility on the road and volatility around mutual projections. If you're involved in company holiday parties, the way to socialize this year, I'm repeating myself, but the way to socialize this year is to adopt the spirit of the jolly Bacchus without actually being one and overindulge. Be jolly, bring people together, but still maintain a cool head. Don't focus on the small stuff. Pay everyone sincere compliments for their uniqueness, for their point of view. Remember, Aquarius energy is starting to come in strong. So we love being recognized, Mars and Leo, we love to be recognized for originality. We love being recognized for our point of view. So be sure to pay compliments to others, knowing that when you pay compliment to somebody else's idea, it doesn't mean that you need to diminish your own. Two great ideas that contradict can both be rooted in truth and authenticity. That is what we're dealing with in in life on Earth, where we could have two opposing opinions and both would be true at the same time and both would be valid at the same time. So, what this energy is wanting from us is for us to admire someone else's opinion and be able to admire our own opinion, to think highly of our own opinion enough that we express our own perspective in a spirit of sharing, not instead of in a spirit of argument. Where was I? Um, yeah, so pay everyone sincere compliments for their uniqueness, and that might open doors for you later to niche opportunities. And you never know. I say niche because, again, with Aquarius energy getting stronger and stronger, and you have Sun in the 8th house, uh, in Capricorn, chances are sort of the power holders, the investors, the silent investors, the angel investors are going to be there in the background, and they're going to be observing. And so use this opportunity well to sort of showcase your ability integrate to integrate common sense with entertainment and play, to integrate pleasure and indulgence with responsibility. This is your chance. Let's see. Okay, here I go again, repeating the caution because it's flashing red on the chart. Be absolutely disciplined with your food and drink intake. And conversely, be generous and magnanimous with your words and presentation. With Moon in Libra, the energy should be there for us to be gracious. It's when we get overindulgent in food and drink that passionate exchanges escalate. It's important this year to know when to leave the party while we're still in good spirits and while we still have the energy and good judgment to navigate the roads. For your own safety and others, do not overstay your welcome and sobriety this year. I have repeated this so many times in this forecast for a good reason. And the same energies will continue through January. And so all the same cautions apply for New Year's Eve celebrations. Fireworks can be tricky, so err on the side of caution and keep a safe distance if you plan to attend. Know your escape routes beforehand, or opt for a drone aerial light show if there's one near you. They're really popular these days, and I've seen these just amazing YouTube videos of these aerial shows that are just so inspiring. It's the age of Aquarius. Everything's becoming electric, including what used to be fire. It's becoming electric. That's great. And personally, I intend to keep my holiday season. This holiday season, consider a peaceful and quiet holiday break a great one. And I would keep mine routine, internally reflective, with yoga, meditation, music as my thematic background score. So I'm going to keep it calm because that allows me uh, to be aware The key really isn't to be a spiritual snob, to point fingers and to say, oh my God, you're not conscious. You should be conscious and you should be aware. The point of all of it is for us to be able to come back to center, to be connected to our bodies. Because when we're connected to our bodies, we're that much more able to receive, those instantaneous cautions, the instantaneous insights into what we need to do next. Either is to make a sharp left or a sharp right to avoid something, or that, we need to call up our grandparents because something says that they need the support, or that our children need extra care for this or that, or that, oh, there's that part of my inner child that really needs to be recognized, who needs a hug right now, something like that. That's the point of all of it. It's not so that we remain in the right. There's no right or wrong. It's just so that we're able to be so connected with our bodies that we are able to process what comes up right now, that we're able to receive what comes up and process. You can call it emotional gunk, can call it um, habits and tendencies that we need to transform or change, or beliefs we need to change at this time to welcome, the next decade. So that's why I say it's best to keep things quiet and reflective this holiday season. And again, if we choose to party, of course, not that we choose, it's a holiday season. We're going to be commuting to our family. We're going to be flying to our families. We're going to be traveling for our loved ones. Time spent in concentrating on yourself, your physical safety, and being vigilant enough, not hyper vigilant, but vigilant enough to uh, to your environment, to be able to see the best path forward, to be able to receive again that instantaneous insight into what the best path forward would be the way to go. And once you get to your destination, keep it light, keep it airy. Have an awareness on your emotional reserves and learn when to retire. Claim that space when you feel like you're almost, don't wait until you're depleted physically, emotionally to leave. When you're already down to 70%, 60%, leave at that time. To ensure your physical safety itself. So that's pretty much November, December, and beyond. And for the next forecast, we're going to look into the Lunar New Year chart, which I think falls on January 30th, I want to say. Let me double check right now. Let me check when the next new moon is. And that would be January 29th, actually. Yeah, at least for us in Pacific time zones. It's going to be January 29th, 2025. And we're gonna analyze that chart to see what our collective dreams and wishes are. It's going to be a really, really interesting one because Venus and Neptune are going to conjunct North Node. A hopeful one for sure. And also, let's see. Oh, that's really, really interesting. The ascendant for that chart is going to be in Sagittarius. I know you can't see it, but I'm just taking a glance right now, a quick glance. So for the new moon chart, January 29th, Sagittarius is going to be the ascendant, looking to Jupiter in the 6th house, and in Gemini, and Jupiter would still be in retrograde at that point. So work is highlighted, daily routines are highlighted, and it is trine with Mercury and Pluto conjuncting in the 1st house in Aquarius, which in itself is Pluto and Mercury together is not the easiest in the 1st house, because it externalizes our desires, what we desire to transform, what our internal missions are, what our main missions are. But they're in trine. So we're going to be working towards that. And the new moon, it is also trining the new moon, which is just a beautiful indication that we're going to be focused on the economy as a whole. Next year is going to be very financial based. And I'll see if we get to have a mascot for next year, because this year the mascot has been very obviously Venus, and I'll see if there's going to be a mascot for next year or not. I don't know yet. But so far, it looks to be very financially focused, especially Jupiter in Gemini and Mercury, which is about commerce, business, finance, transactions, conjuncting Pluto in the 1st house. Our mind is really on the economy and finance. And our communication is going to be on the economy and finance. And really, that's all we want to talk about and focus on next year. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 5th house. Uranus in the 5th house. Yeah, again, a lot of opportunities to be seen for our own uniqueness, to suddenly become popular because of us showcasing our uniqueness, showcasing what's never been seen, even showcasing what is alternative, non-mainstream, and any other original ideas that we may have that revolutionizes what was in the past. So we're going to see that a lot next year. New ideas coming forward, even new ways of presenting ourselves, new ways of living. You know what? Not new ways of living. It's new ways of seeing, of making sense of the world, new ways to make sense of the world, new ways in how we philosophize human existence. So, rewriting human history, I don't know. It's almost like rewriting our anthropology history, anthropological or anthropology textbooks, rewriting the textbooks of anthropology, of the human storyline. That is very, very potential. Okay, so I digress into next year. I want to leave some for the next forecast. Let's see. And I think that's pretty much it. I know for this entire forecast, I'm just repeating over and over again, pretty much all of the summary. I've just been repeating the summary over and over again. Notice projected fears. And really engage with the external world from a sense of mutuality. Have mutuality in our focus always, because this is a time frame when we are under heavy influence of the celestial background music of fear and insecurities, just because we need to process them within ourselves. And then safety for yourself, for everybody. And then reorganizing joint finances. Well, this didn't come up over and over again, but it's an opportunity that's there in December. And Pluto ingress into Aquarius. It's for this entire period. Let me see when let me give you a date. I don't want to leave this hanging. Let me see when Pluto will go into the first degree. I could do that. Give me a second here. So it'll ingress into the first degree December 29th, 2024. Yeah, so by then we would feel a little better. So give it another month, really, in terms of this emotional and physical exhaustion. But really, I'm gonna say head it into the for this entire New Year period. Be aware of when to rest and recharge. And then my wish for everybody for the next month really is to just have a nice and quiet and reflective holiday season. And so that's the forecast for the upcoming month. I hope that was helpful. I know usually I like to throw in trines and even helpful conjunctions to help orient ourselves to uh, the hopeful, to the positive. And I'm not saying that we are devoid of that this holiday season. I'm just saying that the energy that's present is more about inviting us to come back to center, to notice what comes up from the depth of our psyches, what comes out of our closet, what skeletons is starting to walk out of our closets, and to really have the conscious awareness to recognize them. All we need to do is to recognize them, to be grateful for their existence, and then release. And for us to be able to do that, we just have to be careful not to go into extremes in terms of celebrations, overindulgence, because then we're going to need to take extra physical and emotional energy to get back into balance. And we're with the skies right now, we're already extolling so much physical and emotional energy just to get used to this new Aquarian era. So that's the gist of it. And the saving grace is that we would be given the time, hopefully, that you have some holiday vacation going on, that you would be given the time to sit, to experiment with the modalities that would suit you, to come to center and to be with what comes up. And this would help us set up for next year and up to 2026, when Saturn and Neptune will go into Aries and conjunct there, because by then we're go, 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 go. It's like, why are we doing this now? It's because by the end of 2025, 26, Uranus is going to be in Gemini, air sign, and then Pluto is going to be in Aquarius, air sign. And then Jupiter, well, it's going to be in Cancer for a while before going to Leo, but it's a lot of in terms of what am I trying to say here? In terms of the celestial energies, in terms of just that interpersonal, transgenerational energies, we're going to be moving at a faster pace. Everything is faster, 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 faster. So we don't really have time to process emotions, or the privacy or the time-space alignment to process we still have to process emotions on a day-to-day basis. It's just basic maintenance, but to really be able to allow things to allow the depth of our emotions to come up to the surface so we can recognize them. This is the last stretch before we would have the opportunity again to process something this deep. Because again, by next year, 2025, 26, things pick up. Like the pace is just very, very fast paced. And then we're going to go into action, 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 action. It's more about doing, 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 doing. And so now the practice is how to be at center, how to set our foundations, how to feel grounded in the space age where Earth is no longer sort of our only focus. We're focusing on the outer space now, but how do we ground ourselves while we're focusing on these Aquarian, sort of non-Gaian and non-terrestrial? We're focusing on the extraterrestrial. How do we ground? Okay, here it is. How do we ground in the terrestrial realm when our minds are going non-terrestrial, when our minds are going extraterrestrial? That's our homework from now up to next year. How do we ground the terrestrial, the body, the emotion, the psychological state, which are all a part of Earth, are part of Mama Gaia. These are the products of Earth. How do we ground that when our focus is no longer earthen? It's in virtual reality, it's in space, it's in the non-material. And so now is the time to find what works for us. How to ground the terrestrial. Because, again, this is the last period that we get to focus on this very exclusively. Okay, so that's that. Next time we're going to be doing, I'll see if I'll actually do the January or just focus on the Lunar New Year chart. We'll see what happens. So until then, gratitude to everyone and gratitude to my guardian angels, seen and unseen, that continue to see the light in me even when I don't. And thank you everyone so much. So have a wonderful, wonderful holiday break. Have wonderful gatherings with your friends and family and your network circles. Have a wonderful and safe and peaceful holiday season. And Happy New Year. Thanks, everyone. Namaste.